Hello, I'm Ruchira Disanaika and I'm a lecturer with the Department of Medical Laboratory Science at the Open University of Sri Lanka. This presentation is based on flipped classroom learning in a medical laboratory science distance learning course. Open University of Sri Lanka was established in 1980 and is a single-mode distance education institute. With the onset of COVID-19 a few years ago, there was a notable surge in learners turning to online education. Now, with this, all higher education institutes were forced to or were compelled to adapt to online education. Now, the Open University of Sri Lanka, being modeled after the British Open University, has an open distant learning or ODL model of education. This means that online education is an integral part of our framework. Despite this, with the increase in use of video conferencing tools for face-to-face discussions or face-to-face sessions, we saw a dramatic reduction in student participation and an increase in demand for video recordings. Unfortunately, low student engagement is a common problem seen with online education. So as a solution for this, we decided to use the flipped classroom for one of the modules under the Medical Laboratory Science degree program. Just to give a brief background on the degree program and the module, the BSc in Medical Laboratory Science is a degree offered by the Department of Medical Laboratory Science within the Faculty of Health Science. Our graduates are employed as medical laboratory scientists in hospitals nationwide. Hematology, or the study of blood, is a core subject in medical laboratory science. Hence, the module Advanced Hematology was selected as a test bed for the flipped classroom. Now, introducing concepts of online education into a medical focused subject has its challenges, particularly because of the limitations in creating or replicating hands-on experience. With regard to this, our department has an advantage. As a prerequisite for our degree program, the Open University of Sri Lanka requires the students to have completed a diploma in medical laboratory technology. This means that our students have a fundamental understanding of laboratory skills and are already employed in the health sector as medical laboratory technologists. This helps us mitigate the limitations in practical exposure in an online environment. Look at a breakdown of the blended course. So at the beginning of the course or module, each student was given a starter pack. This included a detailed outline of the syllabus, learning objectives, learning resources, assessment criteria, and a working guide. The working guide was more or less a navigation tool to help students progress through the blended course. The content itself was divided into 7 units. Each unit has anywhere from 3 to 10 sessions. These sessions are the equivalent of a lecture in the traditional system. So each unit started with the overview of the unit, giving the objectives and the activities expected to be completed at the end of the unit. With each sessions, the students were provided with video recordings, lecture handouts, and in-depth textual resources. At the end of each unit, they had a habit stacking activity. This was to reinforce the key concepts that were covered in the unit. At the end of the 7 units, we had a 2-day practical session. This was to give them the opportunity to apply the theoretical knowledge in a hands-on, practical, laboratory-based environment. In addition to this, we also had 5 face-to-face sessions which were conducted both on-site, in person, and online. These face-to-face sessions were not structured. They were more of an open discussion forum where we discussed the previous sessions, the previous habit stacking activities, the practical sessions, and a Q&A session where students were allowed to clarify any questions they had. Apart from the face-to-face sessions, we also had 3 assignments distributed throughout the program. Going into further detail, the course was designed with students with all learning styles in mind. So before the sessions, we gave them a 30-minute video recording with detailed explanations and visual aids. They were given written documents which included lecture handouts and textbook chapters which were specifically written for this module. They were also provided with links to online resources which included videos, short notes, and interactive activities. During the session, as I mentioned before, we conducted discussion forums to clarify their questions. We also had small activities within the span of the session to which they were given real-time feedback on their performance. Then after the session, they were given small activities which could vary from a 1-minute paper, a case study, or a calculation based on the content of that session. The main aim of these activities was to reinforce or encourage them to reflect on what they have learned. In addition to these small online activities, the assignments that we gave them also helped reinforce the key concepts of the units that they have covered. To analyze the effectiveness of the flipped classroom, we took a mixed approach of quantitative and qualitative research methods. We used a questionnaire with both open-ended and closed-ended questions and administered it across all 98 students who participated in this course. Descriptive analysis was computed for quantitative data and content analysis was conducted for qualitative data. Further, the face-to-face participation data and online course log reports were used to corroborate the results. Now let's look at the results and discussion. So with regard to the student demography, being an ODL university, the demography might be a bit different from a traditional university. When you look at the age, you can see that most of our students, 50%, are between the years of 25 and 30. Then we have close to 20% between 31 and 35 and another 20% between 36 and 40. With regard to gender, around 3/4 were female. And most importantly, I think all of our students are employed in either the government sector or private sector hospitals and a few in the university laboratory setting as technical officers. This is important in context to the lower student engagement that we see because all of them are employed as full-time healthcare workers. Then with devices used, most of them have used mobile phones. During discussions, they mentioned that it was more convenient for them to access it through their phone while in the hospital setup. And some of them have used laptops and tablets. With regard to student participation, it should be noted that except for the practical classes, practical examination and final examination, none of the other components were compulsory. Despite this, we saw a very high attendance in all the face-to-face classes. So the usual trend that we see with these students is that because they are employed, they don't give priority to attend the face-to-face classes. Instead, at the end of the class, they request for the video recording and go through the recording when time permits. But with this mode of delivery, we saw very high attendance, so roughly attendance of around 80% and the minimum attendance being 60% throughout all the face-to-face discussion classes. And with the habit stacking activities especially, close to 100% of the students had submitted the habit stacking activities. And more importantly, 99% of the students received eligibility to sit for the final exam. Now, a problem that we see in our degree program is anywhere from 20 to 25% of the students do not get the minimum mark required from the continuous assessment tests to sit for the final examination. But with this mode of delivery, with this flipped classroom, we saw that 99% of the students received eligibility to sit for the final examination. Back, we saw that all the students found that the flipped classroom arrangement was more engaging for learning. And the students preferred to have the video beforehand so they could go through the content, prepare questions, and then engage in a more productive conversation during the face-to-face sessions. Because of this, they found the face-to-face sessions more engaging and more enjoyable than a traditional lecture. 85% of the students said that they formed a habit of doing a small activity after a video or after a face-to-face session. And 72% of the students agreed that the flipped classroom changed their learning strategy. Look at a few key insights that we gained from this flipped classroom. So this is undoubtedly more effective than the traditional format. There's a significant increase in student engagement and their performance by looking at their eligibility scores. Some challenges that we identified was with a minority of students, they had issues with procrastination. So they would delay doing the activities and then close to the deadline, they'd have a huge backlog of activities they had to complete within a short span of time. In future, we hope to incorporate more hands-on practical activities into the assignments. And since all our students are employed in the medical sector, we can incorporate activities which have real-world applications, which they can do in their laboratory setup. So in conclusion, the flipped classroom model demonstrates effectiveness and adaptability in practical-based subjects like medical laboratory science. And that is the end of the presentation. I'd like to give a huge thanks to the Open University of Sri Lanka, especially the Department of Medical Laboratory Science and the Center for Educational Technology and Media. Thank you very much.